Thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and get started here. So again, my name's Dylan. We're with Senior Tech Connect. I've got my co-host Mariana here today. She's going to be helping to moderate the chat, just make sure that all of your questions get answered as I kind of go back and forth between this camera and our overhead camera so I can show you some demonstrations live as well. Just some quick housekeeping. We'll have you muted. All of you will be muted with your videos off. So if you do want to communicate with us, which we absolutely encourage, please do so in that chat. Let us know any questions you have. Um, Again, like I answered before, we'll send out that webinar recording through your email. And please no soliciting. If you do have any kind of solicitations, please don't put those in the chat. And yeah, with that, we'll get started here with smartphone emergency essentials. So with emergency essentials, we're going to go over why these settings matter in the first place. We'll go over a few different scenarios of how these emergency settings can be used. We'll talk about what they are, how to input emergency contacts so that in case a first responder needs to contact someone for you, they know who that emergency contact is. So a lot of useful information here.
It's pretty cool how the cell phone or most forms of technology have evolved so much. I know back then when phones were simply just to make phone calls, just to be able to reach somebody. And it is quite impressive to see that our phone can now even protect us in some shape, way, or form because these emergency settings are very useful and very needed, and it's best to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. So definitely setting these up are going to be very important to go over to today.
Absolutely. So, starting off, we're going to look at our first scenario here, where we've got Al, who's 80 years old, and he faints while shopping. A bystander finds their phone, but they don't know who to call. Luckily, the paramedics arrive, and they're aware of how to check for her in case of emergency contacts. And they're able to quickly identify that as her daughter and provide some important medical history, and of course, meet them at the hospital to have that emergency contact be available for them. So how do we actually set up this emergency contact? Again, the use case is very clear of why we would want to have this, but how does that first responder even know? Like, where would they go to look? Well, first, how are you going to add it for them to look? So you'll go to your phone app and locate contacts, which is right down here at the bottom. On newer versions of Android, which I'll show you here in a moment on the live view, it might look slightly different for you. But once you go to contacts and select a contact, like right here, I can see that mom has been selected. Once that contact has been selected and you can see the contact information, you're going to scroll to the very bottom and you'll see Add to Emergency Contacts. If you have multiple phone numbers for this contact, it's going to then ask you which phone number for this contact is the emergency contact. We can't choose both. You could go through these steps and add it again if you wanted to add that second number, but we can only add one at a time here. So it's going to ask you for that number, which one you want to use. Then it's going to ask you the relationship. So it's the mother, for example. They can select that. And then from there, you'll see this red asterisk appear next to that phone number. If I were to go back by hitting this back button in the top left of the screen, that way I could see the list of all of my contacts again, you'd see that this same red asterisk would be present next to the icon or next to the contact in your list of contacts as well. So that way you can quickly identify for yourself who is already an emergency contact.
And I just want to add, if we happen to be moving too fast and you need us to repeat anything, go ahead and leave that in the chat next to yes, just drop it down in the chat. Then we can go ahead and slow it down for you guys, maybe repeat a couple of the steps. So don't be afraid and let us know. I know sometimes we might move too fast. We aren't in front of you guys. We are not aware of how fast you guys are going. So if we do happen to go too fast, just let us know. And we are perfectly capable of slowing it down for you guys.
Yeah, and of course, I will also be re-demonstrating everything that we're talking about on the live view. So if you do feel that, like Mariana said, if we're going too fast and you think I may we need to repeat that. Know that I will also be repeating it here in the live view. So let's say that I wanted to, well, let's say I first wanted to check who my emergency contacts are. I can go to my phone app down here. And I mentioned it would look slightly different. Here we've just got the three options, or four if you count the search, but you still see contacts here. So I'm going to select contacts. And if I just scroll, I will eventually see a red asterisk. Doesn't quite look red on this camera, but it is a red asterisk here, and it's next to my wife here. So I can immediately see, without even clicking into this contact, who my emergency contact is. But let's say I also wanted to add Laura as another emergency contact. I could select that contact, scroll to the very bottom, and select Add to Emergency Contacts. When I press it, it's going to go straight to this relationship screen. Now, we discussed that it was going to ask me which number to choose, but there's only one number for this contact, so there's no need to ask that question. It just selects the only number associated with that contact and skips straight to here. Or you could then select whatever the relationship is, and then it would appear, that same red asterisk would appear next to their name as well. This is not someone that I want to add as an emergency contact, so I'm not going to do that personally, but that would be the steps you would take. Now, the next question you would probably be asking is, well, how is that first responder going to see this? My phone is locked. They can't unlock my phone. And you're right, they can't unlock the phone. So if my phone is locked here, where the screen is off, if I hold the power button and the volume down button at the same time, it pulls up this power off screen. Now we can slide up here like this to power off the device, which I'm not going to do, but I could swipe that over to just fully power down the device. I could swipe this SOS to immediately contact emergency services, or I could swipe over on medical ID, and that will show that same emergency contact that I just added.
In question, would the person be able to click on that contact and call for my phone number or for my own phone? Or would I have to dial, like, let's say if I were to do that, would I have to use my phone to dial it?
So if you have the power off screen here and you swipe over, if you press on this number, if I just tap where the number is right there, that will start calling the emergency contact from this phone. So you can immediately contact them from here.
Then I'm going to go ahead and stop you for a little bit. We have Ingrid mentioning, is this just for iPhone? No, Ingrid. We do have the Android version, but the way that our presentations are set up, we target iPhones first, and then the next couple slides after is going to be Android. We like to do this just to give that one-on-one feeling with every individual and their phones. So we will also be going over all of these steps on how to do them with Android. So if you guys have an Android, you guys are perfectly fine. You guys are still more than welcome to participate in the webinar. Um, just give us a bit of patience if what we're going through is not resonating with you guys. It will shortly.
Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning that our slides just bounce back and forth between iPhone and Android. So, yes, as Mariana said, and as we're about to do right now, actually, the next thing we'll cover is how to do the exact same thing on your Android phone. Now, Androids can vary quite a bit depending on your specific Android. So I'm going to mention how the slides show it. I'm also going to mention a few other ways that I've seen it be done on various Androids. Most likely, actually, just to bypass this section for now, most likely the best way to access these settings on your Android is going to be to open your settings, search for emergency, and select the emergency option in your settings. And in those emergency settings, you'll see an add to emergency contacts. If you have an older Android, you might still have groups at the top of your contacts. So this is where you'll open your phone app or contacts, and then at the very top of your contacts list, you'll see groups. And when you click into groups, you should see in case of emergency contacts. That's what ICE stands for, in case of emergency. And you can see here that one next to it. So you could click into this to see who that one contact is. Accessing it would be very similar from that power off screen. And again, I'm going to go ahead and show that live demonstration for the Android side here as well. Um, but essentially, if you do have that older version and you click into the group, you'll be able to select edit and add a member to the group. And then you can add any contact in your phone to also be a part of this group. So,
And like Dylan was mentioning, with every Android, it can be slightly different. So he will be going over other ways that you could possibly go about it. But if still these points that we are mentioning are still not resonating with your device, make sure to drop that question down and we can target those individual questions and try to figure out together exactly how you guys would be able to do these ICE contacts in case this particular format is not resonating or even the ones that we mentioned. Unfortunately, with all Androids, they do vary depending on models and brands. They can differ a little bit, so we want everybody to feel included.
so, one slight hiccup was unfortunately, I didn't realize that the Android phone that I have here is not as charged as I would like it to be, and it just died on me as I was trying to set that up. But again, essentially, the important settings there, or the important way to get to that from your Android device, is going to be to open up your settings app. From there, you should see a magnifying glass or some way to search within those settings and search for emergency. The emergency options that you see available to you are is what you'll click on, and in there you'll see emergency contacts. From there, that's how you'll again just add whoever's in your contacts that you would like to be an emergency contact. Um, yeah, sorry about that. I should have charged that. Um, Okay, so here, so yes, on some newer ones, you can, again, like I said, search for emergency contacts. Sometimes you just search for emergency because it might just be called emergency SOS or emergency. It might not be exactly called emergency contact in your settings. So just search for emergency and see what your specific device's settings is calling that specific setting. Again, for Android, unfortunately, I've seen at least 4 or 5 different variations of that. So it is very specific to your Android device. But searching is going to be the best way. I would never advise anyone to try to just dig through settings and locate something, because even if you figure out the specific pathway to get to that setting, Android or iPhone might just change it in a few months, and or might just like figure out a different place to put that setting, and then that pathway isn't as meaningful. So I would get into the habit of just searching for those settings instead. And Mariana, can you actually go over this while I go grab a charger for the Android device so I can
Yes.
fix this for the rest of the class?
Yes, sir. So we're going to dive into this second scenario. Scenario two, medical emergency. We're utilizing emergency SOS. John, a 72-year-old man, suddenly feels dizzy and collapses while home alone. He remembers that pressing the power button 5 times quickly on his smartphone calls 911 automatically. Within minutes, emergency responders arrive and take him to the hospital. So this is another nifty tool that our devices can utilize. I know sometimes in cases of emergency, maybe we don't have the strength enough to go into our dial pad and dial 911. So that this is a nifty secondhand tool where if we just press the power button 5 times, it would automatically call 911. One thing that you guys do have to keep in mind is going to have a countdown from 8. So it's going to go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 at the same time simultaneously. It will have an alarm going on, notifying you and other people around you that there is an emergency occurring. And then after the countdown is over, the phone will automatically call 911. And so when we go into, so we're going to go ahead and go over how to set this up on our device because unfortunately this does not come set up on our device. We do have to go in and set it up ourselves. So on iPhone first, we're going to go ahead and open up our device and then we're going to locate settings. When we locate our settings, we're going to look up emergency SOS. So Dylan will be demonstrating it physically while I explain it. So we're going to be going into settings, and then once into settings, we want to enter in the search bar, emergency SOS. And so once entering that, we're going to see that first option right at the top stating emergency SOS. We're going to go ahead and click it. And once we click it, we're going to be presented all these options in front of us. Currently, Dylan has his settings off, and we know this because the switches are over to the left and they are gray. But if you look at the screen, you're going to see that second option that says call with 5-button press. We want to go ahead and toggle that switch on by just tapping it. Once we go ahead and tap it, it will turn green.
Unfortunately, it's hard to tell, but this one actually is turned on in green. But
Oh,
the lighting just is not very well for this camera. But yeah, you can kind of see if I like very briefly when it's as it's trying to refocus that there is green there.
yes. So, unfortunately, we can't see it over the video, but he does have it on. So he has configured his phone to now be able to press that button 5 times, and when pressing that button 5 times, the phone will automatically dial 911. Are we able to give a demonstration of what they will be seeing and hearing when we do that 5-button press?
Yes, and I did want to mention, I know we've talked about the 5-button press, and maybe Mariana mentioned this while I was getting the charger, so I apologize if that's the case. But there is the second option of holding the power button and the volume button at the same time. The reason you might want to know both, it might just be easier for you to hold two buttons as opposed to pressing something 5 times fast, depending on your own hand dexterity, whatever works best for you. Maybe holding works better than pressing, maybe pressing works better than holding. So just so you know that both of those options do exist. And to demonstrate, again, the phone can be fully off. You don't have to have the phone unlocked to do this, and I will just hold the power button and the volume button. And if I continue holding, you see it begins to count down. When it gets to five, when it gets to five, you heard it make a loud siren noise. It was also flashing the flashlight the whole time as well. So essentially, when you do that, what's happening is it is not only contacting emergency services, which obviously we certainly wanted to contact emergency services. It's also contacting your emergency contact. It's also sending your location to both of those, and it's also going to begin recording your audio and video surroundings for like I think about a 15-second clip that it then also sends to those same people. All of that happens just from holding those two buttons for 8 seconds.
And fun fact, Dylan, one other way that our phones can dial 911 in case we don't have the energy to do it ourselves, we can always say, "Hey Siri, call 911." And Siri will go ahead and dial that automatically. So not even having to touch your phone, you can call emergency responders.
Yes, you will want to make sure that Siri is allowed to be used while the phone is unlocked. So, if, for example, so if I go into, if I go back into settings here and I go to Siri, so I'm just going to search for Siri and Apple Intelligence and Siri, and then allow Siri when locked. So you'll want to have that turned on because again, if you've fallen down and your phone's on the table somewhere, you can't reach your phone. So you'll need to be able to reach it when it's locked, not just unlocked. So yeah, make sure that setting's turned on just in case, because God forbid you need to use Siri for that purpose, and then we didn't turn on that setting, so it's not going to work.
So that makes a total of 3 ways your device can call 911 without physically having to type 911.
Yeah, and then we have a few other options here that you may have noticed as we were looking at them. And this is what Mariana was saying when it's green to the right, this means enabled. So again, I know my camera was doing a poor job of representing that, but this is what it should look like when they are enabled. Then you have this other option down here for call quietly. So in my opinion, this button is a bit counterintuitive. Um, we heard the siren, like that loud siren noise that it was making when you held those two buttons for 8 seconds or for the 5 second mark. That loud siren noise is optional. So if you enable this call quietly, it will not make any noise anymore. It will call quietly instead. So enabled means no noise. Disabled means it will make noise. Again, I know kind of a little counterintuitive in my opinion. I wish they had named that a little better. Just they could have just named it siren and had it on or off. But yeah, call quietly enabled means it's not going to make any noise. And then this call after severe crash is a newer feature, but it's on, if you have like, I think it's like iPhone 14 and above, you'll have this feature. This one specifically, I don't believe there's an Android equivalent to this yet, to my knowledge. Maybe there is now, maybe on on much newer Androids, but in my experience, I haven't seen this feature on Androids quite yet. But essentially, if you have your phone connected to your car, like to your car's Bluetooth, and you have if you have a car that's new enough to have Bluetooth, then you have this feature in your car. And essentially, if you get into a car accident, it will call emergency services for you. Notably, if you get into a small fender bender, it's not just going to call the cops because you bumped your car into something. And I've gotten that question before of like, well, I don't need it to, if I scrape a pole, I don't need it to call the cops. And of course, it's only going to do that. I think what it's detecting is the airbags deploying. So it needs to be like a crash, and then it will contact them.
And then going back to the that call quietly option, sorry, I'm like trying to locate where the screen is. That one I do want to point out, particularly in a woman's perspective, this can be counterintuitive in the sense if we turn it on, to me that extra precaution of the siren is also part of the emergency tools, particularly in my example of us women, if we're out and about and we're walking alone and it's dark at night and we do happen to see maybe possibly someone following us, I would particularly feel safe to have that setting turned off so that alarm would sound in case I need it and I do activate it. That alarm will set off whoever is potentially following me to let them know, like, hey, this person is probably doing something and I don't want to get caught and maybe stir them away to you know, a different target and not be a target myself. So it is another form of protection. And like I mentioned, in a woman's perspective, I know sometimes we want to have that extra sense of security. So as myself as a woman, I would more than likely have that setting off. So whenever I do have to utilize that tool, that alarm will sound, and that is another extra layer of protection to not be a target in case of that happening.
Absolutely. Now, this is that scenario for the crash detection. We've got Cecile, a 78-year-old driver, gets into a severe car accident, and she's unconscious as a result. So she has no ability to call the cops. She's just got to hope that someone stumbles upon, helps her out. She would need that Good Samaritan, essentially. As opposed to now, with that newer iPhone, the car is going to automatically let the phone know, and the phone's going to contact emergency services. It'll share her location with those emergency responders as well as with the emergency contact. And yeah, again, it's just a life-saving technology those minutes can make if you have emergency services immediately on the way instead of waiting however many minutes it takes for someone else to stop and help. Like those, every minute counts in a situation like that. So it's just a really great feature that I've seen. For Android devices, you'll have the option to send an SOS message as an emergency feature. Again, to get to this feature, we're just going to go to settings, that gear cog icon like this, and we're going to just search for emergency. And I'm actually going to see if I've got enough charge on my Android yet. I do. Okay, so let's get that turned on, and then I will show a live demonstration for the Android as well. And again, I
In
apologize I didn't have that in the beginning. Is that
in the
Mariana?
meantime, as we're waiting for that to power up, what are you guys thinking of these emergency SOS settings? Do you guys think you guys would be um turning these settings off so we have them available when we need them? What are you thinking? Go ahead and share with us in the chat what you guys think of these settings, how they can be useful for you guys, and I'll definitely be reading those. I know they tend to be very complicated to find them and to turn them on, but the good thing is once we set those things on, they are permanently on unless we turn them off. So they're there for us whenever we need them. And then I see Sheena Lavelle. I always turn them on. That is amazing. It is always best to turn these settings on, just to have them in case we need them. Because like I mentioned before, it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them on.
Yeah. And I see that Patricia asked
Marlene
in the
Long,
Q&A,
always on.
uh,
Yes.
oh, I see that Patricia asked in the Q&A, do emergency personnel and police know how to access this on our phones? They do. They're aware of the fact that they can access those things from the lock screen. One thing I would point out with that, because I showed you that on iPhone at least, I showed you that medical ID where you can add your emergency contacts essentially. There's a lot of other information that iPhone will let you put in that section. If you go to settings and search for medical ID, you'll see a lot of additional information that you can put in. I would be very cautious about what you put in there because, again, anything that you put into that medical ID section for iPhone can be accessed without unlocking your phone. So it will let you put things like your full name, your date of birth, things like that. That again, I just don't think a first responder needs in that moment. They probably need to know what are you allergic to and what medications are you taking. That's probably the information that I would put in that medical ID section in addition to your emergency contacts. But I would be careful about how much information you put there because they have like a whole notes section where you can just write in whatever you want and add as much information as you want to. And of course, Apple would love for you to give as much information to them as you can. But you need to be the one to take a step back and say, if I fall unconscious and a first responder finds my phone, what do they need in that moment? Something like a date of birth. Hey, when we get to the hospital and we're filling out paperwork, then we can figure out date of birth. That's irrelevant in this moment. That first responder needs to know that it would be very useful for them to know what you're allergic to and what medications you're taking. That's probably the important information.
We also have Nancy. She says, if the silence is on, will it still call contacts?
Yes, so your phone being on silent will not have any impact on it being able to contact those people or for the siren making noise. So for that siren sound, it doesn't matter if your phone's in do not disturb, doesn't matter if you've turned down the volume all the way, it's gonna make that siren sound. And then I see Patricia also asked, do you need to do something on your automobile to connect the phone emergency? As long as your phone is connected to the vehicle via Bluetooth, which is like how you would listen to your music in your car, things like that, as long as that connection is established, then that's all you really need to do. You'll also want to make sure that da-da-da, that this call after severe crash option is turned on. But as long as that's turned on and your iPhone is connected to Bluetooth in your car, then that's all it needs to know and it'll connect. Okay, so let me go ahead and show.
One more question
Yeah,
from
go ahead.
Marlene. Where do you input the medical information? Is it under settings?
Yes, so you're going to go to settings and you're going to search for medical ID.
And one little fact that I want to throw out there, just because I just realized this recently, we do have to have the health app downloaded on our device. If we happen to maybe delete it, it should automatically be on our iPhones. But in certain circumstances, I know some people may have deleted certain apps. We have to make sure the health app is downloaded in order to be able to access our medical ID and be able to edit it.
Yes, the one exception being the emergency contacts. You can add those without, but yeah, like Mariana said, anything outside of the emergency contacts, you will need that health app. Which again, if you go to your settings and search for medical ID and try to add information, it's going to prompt you to go and download that exact app. So looking here at the Android device, I'm going to go into settings. And since I'm not exactly sure, or in this example, let's pretend I'm not exactly sure where or what kind of emergency settings this specific Android has, I'm just going to go up to this magnifying glass and search for emergency. And then I see emergency SOS, I see emergency contacts. So here we can go ahead and go back a few slides here to demonstrate that as well. Emergency contacts in the settings. right here is where you'll go to add emergency contacts. You'll see a few that are already listed to show you who you already have added. And then from here, you could click Add to see a list of your current contacts for you to add. So that's the contacts. And then again, we're still just searching for emergency. And then we see the emergency SOS option at the top. So if I go into emergency SOS, and I guess I'll point something else out here as we're doing this. When you're searching for something like this, you're seeing that it's showing emergency SOS. And then whenever I click on it, it's not going to emergency SOS. It's going to the screen where I can then select emergency SOS. So it's kind of a two-click system there of like that first thing that it brings you to, as you can see, says safety and emergency. So we're not quite there, but then we can just go to emergency SOS to get the rest of the way there. So here we can see that pressing the side button 5 times in emergency is how you're going to call for help. So very similar or the exact same as the iPhone, except that we don't have that secondary option of holding the power button and volume button. So for the Android users, just forget about that part and just focus on those 5 button presses on the power button on the right side of your phone. Yeah, and then you'll also see this option here. You'll want to make sure it's enabled to share info with the emergency contact. So that way, whenever you contact emergency services, instead of it just contacting 911, which you can see here, emergency number to call, 911, in addition to this, you can turn this on and have it also uh, share with your emergency contact. That means it's also going to send your location and the SOS message that you've selected to that contact. And then where you may wonder, like, what SOS message, right? If I go back to the safety and emergency section, you'll see emergency. No, no, no. Where's the message? Was it here?
So the options at the lower bottom, emergency sharing settings, I would believe you could find it there.
Maybe they got rid of the message, which honestly it was probably the least important part of this anyway, so that's probably would be a good choice if they did. But the functionality works still. You press the button 5 times, that's going to contact 911, and if you've enabled this, it's also going to contact whoever you have set as your emergency contact. Yeah. A lot of other alerts that you have for both iPhone and Android. Here in Android, I can see things like earthquake alerts. So you could click into here and make sure those are turned on, get those updates, crisis alerts for things like Amber alerts or other public emergencies, things like that. Um, yeah,
I really believe that technology has evolved completely. It went from being a simple tool just to contact people to now having these useful emergency settings that we can utilize to its full potential and help us out in a life or death situation.
yeah, absolutely. So now got another emergency or another situation here, scenario. This really ties into what Mariana was saying about like walking home, maybe alone at night, especially if you're a woman and you maybe feel unsafe. You've got someone following you and you just don't feel safe. That's a perfect opportunity to pull out your iPhone, hold the power button and volume button, or press the power button 5 times, whichever way is more easy for you to do. And again, it will start playing that loud siren. It will start counting down. Normally, I say normally, I haven't experienced this, but I would imagine if you start playing a loud siren at night to someone that's following you, they're probably going to think twice and go somewhere else. It's unfortunate, but they'll probably just go find an easier target. But again, you at least will feel protected in that you had that loud siren ability. So, like Mariana was saying, I would definitely keep the call quietly option turned off. I I can really only think of one scenario where I would want to have call quietly turned on, and that would be if I'm in a bank and it's actively being robbed. And like outside of that scenario, I'm like, I think in most cases I would want to let that person know, hey, the cops are on their way. You better get out of here. And that's probably going to be make you feel much safer than not having that ability to make a siren. So Yeah, here you see Nora's walking home alone at night, feels like she's being followed, and again has that option to make that siren sound.
I do have a comment from Sheena. My phone is all encom encompassing.
My phone is all encompassing.
Sorry.
Um, yeah, yes, these are very powerful devices these days. Um, yeah, and that's honestly probably a good word to use. Like it is just it's becoming so much more than just the phone. It went from being the phone to oh now we can text with it to oh now we can access a web browser with it. And now it's we just do everything. It's all encompassing. Like you're saying, it's everything now. Yeah. So this is going to be that screen you're seeing on your iPhone, which we went over there in the live demonstration. So you can see, again, the important thing to mention of what's happening here when you're counting down. It's going to call 911. It's going to call your emergency contacts, plural if you have multiple contacts, which you can absolutely add as many emergency contacts as you want to add. So it'll contact all your emergency contacts. It will send both of them or all of them your location, and then it will also start recording your audio and video surroundings. All of that happens just by holding those two buttons for 8 seconds. So again, an amazing feature that and for the Android side, just pressing that power button 5 times does that same thing. So again, probably one of the most amazing features that I've seen on these phones of just the ability to so quickly and so efficiently do so many emergency things with just the press of or just the holding of a button or the pressing of a button a few times.
And as far as to even saying, "Hey Siri, call 911," and have it dial for you automatically without having to even press a button.
Are you having to
I'm just
stop it on your phone
astonished.
every time?
I do, because then if not, she starts calling 911 and we don't want that right now.
Hopefully, we're not setting off anyone else's phone in the call. Um, hopefully not. Check your phones. Make sure Siri isn't waking up. Uh,
Well, luckily nowadays, Siri is very configured to recognizing the owner's voice.
yes.
So sometimes it won't go off because it's not registering that it's your voice. So it even does that. Our smartphones can identify if we are the ones that are talking.
Yeah, that's a really useful feature, especially as someone like Mariana and I who are in classes a lot, giving these classes and saying those two words quite often. It's nice to know that if I say, "Hey Siri," that's probably not going to wake up Mariana's phone. Um, again, if someone maybe sounds more similarly to Mariana, maybe so, but I don't think the two of us are going to have that issue. Uh,
Yeah, I think it's quite hard for us to sound the same.
So next we have Ed. Now Ed's hard of hearing. He misses a lot of phone calls because of it. One day his daughter's trying to call him over and over again because there's a family emergency, and he's just not hearing his phone because it's just not making any noise. Maybe he accidentally has it on Do Not Disturb. Maybe he accidentally turned the volume all the way down. Maybe he's just in a room too far away from it and he just can't quite hear it. But luckily, Ed turned on emergency bypass specifically for his daughter's number. So that way, whenever she called a few times and he wasn't answering, she can decide to say, hey, call again, but make the phone as loud as possible. And you can essentially say exactly that of like, hey, now the next time I call, regardless of if the phone's in silent mode or do not disturb or turn down, the volume becomes the max volume. So he can hear that phone call. So again, a very useful feature. This one, unfortunately, is iPhone only. I'm not aware of any Android equivalent, even on newer Androids for this one specifically, but I will go over an Android workaround to at least help with bypass with ignoring unknown callers and focusing callers more on contacts. So we'll at least have something there for you, but the specific emergency bypass is going to be iPhone only. And to activate that, we're going to first open up our phone app on our iPhones and locate the contacts section. From there, you're going to find the contact that you would like to do this for. Most likely, it's probably going to be the same person that you said is an emergency contact. So you'll just go and find that contact, click on them, and then click Edit. Edit's going to appear in the top right here, right next to where it says Done currently. If it didn't say Done, it would say Edit. Essentially, Edit becomes Done, becomes Edit as you click it. So if I were to click Done right here, that would become Edit. So we're going to click edit and scroll down to ringtone and text tone. If I click into ringtone, I then see emergency bypass right here at the top. Same thing for text tones. So for ringtones and text tones, these are treated individually. So if he turns on emergency bypass for the ringtone for his daughter, and the daughter is sending a text message as an emergency, she's not going to have that option to do an emergency bypass for a text message unless he went back, went to text tones, and turn it on for text tones as well. So you would need to do both of those. And again, once it's turned on, essentially, as long as both users are iPhone users, that iPhone user can then make your phone loud if they need to in case of emergency.
And just a quick question in case if anybody has this question. Am I able to do it for ringtone and text message, or it can only be done one?
You can do for both, yes. Yes, I could definitely turn on both of these. It's just totally up to you in case you just only, maybe you don't want the ringtone to be able to have that. You only want to have text tones for that. You have that ability to have control over that. Now, for Android devices, this isn't exactly an emergency bypass, but it's kind of a workaround that I at least find to be really useful for at least avoiding unknown callers and just having a lot of those scam calls just not bother you anymore. And that's going to be using the do not disturb method. So on your Android device, if you locate the do not disturb option, which you can do by swiping down from the top of your phone and swiping down again. That
From the
second
right-hand corner, correct?
it depends on your Android device. You're right though. Yeah. So for if you have a newer Android device, then you just swipe down once from the top right corner, and that's going to get you to this screen. If you have an older Android device, you might need to swipe down once and then swipe down a second time to see. That first swipe down, you'll probably see these icons, but you won't see the names of them. So it might be kind of difficult to know what they do. And that second swipe down is what makes this area larger. So you can see the word do not disturb instead of just seeing a minus sign in a circle and you needing to assume what that means. So if I click the do not, or sorry, if I hold this do not disturb option, that's going to bring me automatically to the do not disturb settings on the phone. So that way I don't have to go into settings and search for do not disturb. I can just hold my finger on do not disturb with a hold gesture, and it will bring me right to this page. From here, I'm going to see all exceptions. I'm going to press see all exceptions. And from there, in exceptions, I want to allow calls. And once you click into allow calls, I want to just allow it for certain contacts. Oops. So I forget sometimes when I click, it doesn't actually click the phone, it clicks the next slide. So yes, we want to click allow calls, and then it's saying from starred contacts only. So what that means is you can now go in and go into your contacts and favorite or star any of the contacts that you want to be able to contact you, probably most of your contacts. And it's why it seems a little counterintuitive because it seems like and you will be, you're just keeping your phone in do not disturb indefinitely forever. You're just keeping your phone in do not disturb, but you're allowing calls from specific starred contacts that you want to receive phone calls from. So it's kind of a way of, again, not really an emergency bypass, but more of a way to focus the calls that are allowed to come through. So if maybe you're someone who ignores a lot of phone calls because you know, yeah, my phone's on the other side of the room, I'm getting a call, it's probably just scam, I'm doing something else. This can kind of at least alleviate that and let you know, no, the phone's ringing, so it must be one of my contacts. It can't be an unknown number, or else it wouldn't even be ringing right now. So again, that can help you a bit with just again making your phone a little less noisy, I guess. But the specific emergency bypass feature would be very specific just to iPhone though.
Rose Kenny is asking about how about scam calls?
Yeah, how about them? So yeah, so scam calls, we're getting a lot of them. Not a whole lot that we can do about it. It's good to report them when you can. It's good to block them when you can. I'm fully aware that blocking that number, they're just going to start calling you from a different number. It's a constant battle, and I know that carriers at least are working on trying to help identify those. So you'll see things like scam likely when they're calling in. Um, I would advise against getting any additional software. Like you'll see people advertising things that you can download to help with blocking calls or to help with cleaning up your phone or to help with even things like to avoiding scams by getting your information off the dark web or things like that. All of that is nonsense and nothing I would spend any money on. The those smaller third-party companies, uh, if they're making certain promises that they can't keep, which is, well, let me rephrase if someone is telling you that they can reduce scams affecting you by going onto the dark web and removing the information that they find about you, that is just not a statement that someone can honestly make. The dark web is very much islands of information, whereas the internet that we know is built by roads that Google made. Google made a bunch of roads to all of the websites, so we can all just drive straight to those websites. The dark web doesn't have roads. It's just if you don't know the exact URL of the place you're trying to get to on the dark web, you're not getting there. There's no road to send you there. There's no real link or pathway to go there. So for someone to say, "Yes, I can remove all your information from the dark web," how do you even know what's there when you can't even go check because you can't possibly go and find everything when there's no road to get you there. Um, See, I see a lot of software like that. I see a lot of software like call blocking apps or things that identify spam. And most of those things, your carrier's already implementing those solutions. They're already letting you know when it's a scam call or when it's scam likely. And I would certainly trust the large carrier networks feature more than the small third parties feature, just because of the liability of not liability, but the onus of those larger companies wanting to get it right so that they don't lose a lot of people to one of the other big companies. That competition is kind of what makes that feature what it is today and why it's going to continue to improve.
I also have Miss Gail. Can you repeat about the hearing issues on iPhone?
Yes, so the emergency bypass, you mean? Is that what
Yeah,
she's referring to?
I'm
Yes.
assuming that's what she's referring to.
Yeah, so let's go back to that. Yeah. So what this is doing, first of all, is making it so that someone that's calling you can make your phone louder. They can do that from their phone if you give them the ability to. And the way that you will give them that ability is by going to their contact. So going to your phone app, selecting their contact, and selecting edit in the top right of the screen, which is what is in place of done here. You'll see edit instead. You'll
Can we
click,
see a live demonstration just to get a better
yeah,
understanding
absolutely.
of it?
Yeah, great idea.
I think it would be better if people see it step by step, kind
Yeah.
of going along with the webinar. So you guys can also set this up on your device. So at currently, you should start thinking about who maybe you might want to put as an emergency bypass and going ahead and following the steps with us step by step. And then having that contact in mind, you can already be adding someone um, as an emergency bypass and then just repeating these steps if you want to do it with multiples.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my phone app down here. And I'm already in my contacts section. So I'm going to find a contact like Mariana. And I'm just going to click edit in the top right. And from edit, I can scroll down to ringtone and text tone. So let's say I want her to be able to do emergency bypass for a text, but maybe not a phone call. Then I could just go to text tone and turn on emergency bypass here. And again, I know it's kind of hard to tell that it's turned on, but it is. It is to the right and green now, as opposed to being left and off. There we go. So with that on, now I'm going to click the blue check mark in the top right of the screen to save that. And now I can see it says emergency bypass on for text tones. Then if I wanted to, I could do the same thing for ringtone. Turn it on, and save with that blue check mark. Now at this point, I've got both bypasses turned on, and this is not saved. If I want this to actually take effect, I need to again hit this blue check mark at the top right. If I just leave this and forget about it and eventually close that app, it's not going to save. Um, but again, if I hit this blue check mark, it will then save that. All right. Any other questions on that?
I hope that answered your question, Gail. If you still have any other questions, if still something's not making sense, go ahead and leave us another question and we'll make sure to clarify anything up. But I hope that answered your question. And she did just respond back. She said, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Oh, looks like we have some questions in the Q&A.
Oh, do we?
Oh, no, I've already answered these. That's
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Well, with that, we've got about 5 minutes left. So, any kind of last minute questions that you want? How does the caller use the bypass? Good question. So
I
that
have mine set up for yourself. If you want to show a live demonstration with both of our phones, we can go ahead and do that. So I
sure.
already set up Dylan as one of my emergency bypass. So it's been set up on my phone. It's been set up on your phone. I currently have my phone on Do Not Disturb mode. So we'll see an example of how this works.
Okay. So I've turned on emergency bypass for Mariana for phone calls. So now my phone's in do not disturb. Let me switch cameras. Hold on. So my phone is in do not disturb, which you can see from this moon icon at the top. So that means no one gets to contact me, no one gets to make noise on my phone except for someone that I allowed to do emergency bypass. So she's going to go ahead and try to call this phone.
And so on my end, I am opening up Mr. Dillon's contact and going ahead and just calling like a normal phone call. And we're gonna see it go through.
Yeah.
Um, are we sure we double click that blue check mark, sir? Because the phone call is not answering, going through.
Oh, I did not do the finishing step. You were correct.
So this is an example of why we want to double click that because since he didn't save that option, I was not able to give him a call. The phone didn't go off, and so that's how I know he didn't click that double check mark. So
There we
see,
go.
the teacher learns from its own lectures. So now we're going to go ahead and try again. So now I'm calling him, and now it's going
There we
through
go.
even
Yeah.
on Do Not Disturb.
Even though
So
my
I
phone is
didn't have
still
to
in do
do
not disturb.
anything special. I simply just had to call him. But because I'm an emergency bypass, it went through even being on Do Not Disturb. Does that answer your question, Kenny? I hope that live demonstration clears up that question.
I was going to try to show someone the one that I have. I guess I can just say it 'cause I don't have an example of this right here in front of me. Cole, so my boss has the bypass turned on for me for texting. So if I send him a text message, if his phone is in do not disturb, it lets me know and says phone in do not disturb, notify anyway, question mark. So initially, if I have that emergency bypass option for myself to make Cole's phone louder, to make my boss's phone louder, it doesn't immediately do that on the text. Like I send a text, it sends quietly and silently to his phone, and then I get a follow-on option of do I want to notify him anyways. So,
I do have a question from Joyce. There's actually a couple. So Joyce is asking, can you please repeat the emergency bypass? And then we have Kenny. Um, will that have the speaker at full volume?
yes. So, is this another person asking about the emergency bypass, or is that the same question that we covered?
No. So Joyce is the first one, and she's asking, can you please repeat the emergency bypass?
Gotcha.
But then we have Kenny asking a follow-up question. Will that have the speaker at full volume?
I believe it does. I believe it turns the volume up all the way.
And
Um,
then
Actually,
Nan,
no, because my phone, whenever you just called me, it was making noise, but it wasn't all the way. It wasn't as loud as it could be. So I
so
think it just goes back to whatever volume you normally have your phone at.
okay.
Yeah.
So and then Nancy is asking, is it the same for Android? And
Yes. So
then Joy
Android does
said,
not
where
have
can
that
I
option.
do it? So I guess we have to go over the emergency bypass one more time, just in case for anybody who missed the steps, because it looks like there is a bit of confusion. And then maybe we can go over on how to do for Android. I know we mentioned that we don't have emergency bypass on Android, but we have something. I guess you can say like a
Yeah,
loophole, similar concept, not
yeah.
exactly the same. For Android, this is primarily more an iPhone thing, but something equivalent was what we were referring to. Maybe going over those two one more time just to clarify any of the extra concerns or questions.
Yeah, so what we can do, I will briefly show just the iPhone's emergency bypass again. But for the others, again, we will be sending out the recording for this, so you can feel free to just go through and rewatch that as many times as needed to make sure that you understand how to do that. Um,
Clarification for Joyce. We won't be looking for this on our settings. We have to go into our contacts and we have to go individually to the contact that we want to set the emergency bypass. So, for example, if you're trying to do your husband, you would have to go into contacts and look for your husband's contact specifically. um, so perfect, you are in contacts. So go ahead and locate your husband or the person that you are trying to set up emergency bypass. Um, Open up that contact and make sure at the top right-hand corner you're pressing edit. So that will take you into edit mode for that specific contact, and then you should be able to locate it on ringtones and text. Kenny's also saying, so the example had the person that was hard of hearing. Can the caller make the speaker louder so he would then hear the call coming in?
yes, so my understanding is you can make the phone louder. Let me look up exactly how to do that.
And then Marlene did send out a comment. Thank you very much for a great presentation. Thank you, Marlene. If you guys do have to go, I know this class is only an hour, and you guys might have other things to do. If you guys do have to go, you guys are more than welcome to head out. That was about the last thing that we're going over. We just want to clarify any further questions for those who have questions. So stick around if you have those same questions and still want to see the steps that we're going over again. But if you guys are on a crunch time and have to head out, go right ahead. This was kind of the end of the presentation. You wouldn't be missing any more important information. So if that is it for whoever needs to head out, that is all. So
So
Joyce,
real quick, just to answer Kenny's question, I was actually wrong. I think I just ended the phone call too quickly. If I let that keep going, it would have built up to the loudest volume it could be. So yes, emergency bypass by default will make the phone louder. Joyce, when you're in ringtones at the very top, you're going to select emergency bypass.
so you're gonna find it very at the very, very top. You can't miss it. It's the very first option. Um, it's gonna be turned off. We want to go ahead and turn it on. Kenny commented back, great, thanks for the great presentation. Shiona says thanks. Thank you guys for joining us, taking your time of your day to learn a couple tricks from your devices. Joyce says, I saw it. Thank you. You're very welcome. So you will repeat those steps moving forward if you want to do multiple contacts and set those up as well.
Oh,
And just
one thing I would
remember that,
oh,
sorry,
go
one last thing, Joyce. Remember, we have to double click that blue arrow to set it up. If we just do it that one time and exit out, it won't save the settings. So make sure we don't do the mistake Mr. Dillon did and click that blue arrow twice up at the right-hand corner. Just wanted to make sure she has that.
yeah. And with that, everyone have a great rest of your day, a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.